I try to get them with, and this is like what I've been really trying to get into lately is, and I've already been into it, but I'm just being more vocal about it. But I'm really trying to get them to understand, it's like, this isn't just like a sport. Like I just play softball and then it's over. This is a thing that you do all the time. Your parents put you into this as a lifestyle to keep you healthy. So that way you're not just coming home from school and playing video games, eating Cheetos. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be here 3 times a week. It has nothing to do with tournaments and belts, and that's all extra. We do that because we're kind of crazy and we want to get into that shit, you know? But for the most part, this is just the life that you live. You come here and you do this, and that's it.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. Today, Drew and I are joined by a man that needs no introduction. He actually just wants to be introduced by his first name, but we're going to do better than that. Big Uncle Zach Maslaney, head of Finishers Enterprises.
Yes, sir.
We'll say that. And a lot of other things, too.
Yeah,
all around great dude, and happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Finally made it down here. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
How far was that ride? Like,
It was like an hour and 40 minutes, so it wasn't too bad. It's the lights that get you. You know what I mean? It would be, an hour, if that, if I didn't have to stop at all those stop lines. Yeah. But you know what? Some people didn't stop at the stoplights, so I saw a lot of people running them and stuff. So maybe I'll do that next time.
So you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that too.
real quick before we start, who's on the socks?
These are. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize I had these on until I changed my shoes. But it's actually a picture of me.
Okay.
But I'm not trying to sell merch or anything. But one of the kids students made that for me for Christmas one time. They come in with stuff on my face.
I was there with my son and my golden retriever.
Oh,
there.
nice.
But I never saw anyone wear a picture of themselves.
Yeah, I know. There's Thor socks as well out there
Respect,
too. Yeah,
dude.
it's
That's
one
how-
pair. Every now and then I run out of socks. I'm like, dang, got to go to the Zach socks.
101, dude. 101. That's how big my eyes are, dude. I couldn't even make it out.
It's really stretched out. So
There you
can
go.
see it
Now I see it.
I got sunglasses on.
Badass. I buy a pair of those, dude. I buy a pair.
Right? Honestly, I only wear stuff that people gave me. Like if I get like clothes from you guys or like, I pretty much wear my own stuff or Fuel Hunt stuff, honestly. I mean, I have my own, like everything is my own brand. I started realizing, I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I going to buy something from like Old Navy or I don't even know where people shop anymore. I don't even know. Macy's, I guess. You know what I mean? I was like, I'll just rock the stuff that I got. Every now and then I'll pick something up.
It's interesting you say that. We always say like where you choose to spend your dollars determines and tells people what you believe in, right? Like, so you're only going to talk like finishers, like your gym, Fuel Hunt.
Yep.
They are the flags you choose to wear on your back every day to let people know what you represent.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with all these companies out there, you don't know anything about them. Like, why am I supporting this brand? Like, this is my one friend. I got the Vans. They did a collab with this one guy that he trains at the school, Fucked. And he's been around doing like a clothing brand. It's like a streetwear brand. Been around from the 1990 or maybe even earlier than out in LA.
Yeah.
And he gives me stuff all the time. He trains jiu-jitsu at the gym. So every time I just wear his stuff all the time. And my wife's always like, do you know what that says? Like, I'm taking my son to school in the morning with the sweatshirt. I got the whole sweatshirt, sweatpants, shoes on. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I get the same thing. Like, violence is a virtue, and I'm like, welcome my 2 girls into school.
Well, see, my wife wears that one though. She wears, she has a couple of the Fuel Hunt shirts too, and she rocks them. And people are always asking her, like, "What is that? Who is that?" And then she's got to explain, like, "Oh, my husband owns a gym and everything," and then goes from there. So
Nice.
Does she train Mrs. Maslaney?
she does not train, but she did train though. Like when she first started, when I first started dating her, it's like an interesting job that you tell someone about. Like, what do you do? Like even you guys, like someone asks you, like, "Oh, what's your job?" You're like, "Well, a lot of times I don't even." She rags on me for this because she thinks I'll always get new students, but she's like, "You always downplay what you do. Like you don't tell people sometimes, even though I do talk a lot and I talk a mile a minute, but I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, it's morning and like this guy's like, oh, where do you work at? And I'm like, oh, dude, this is going to be like a long conversation. I don't know if I even want to bring this up. But then some people are like I mentioned to one guy at my son's school and he was like, oh, I used to train jiu-jitsu. I'm from Georgia or wherever. He's like, I moved back up here. I'm going to college. When I'm done, I'm going to sign up. So that was good. So sometimes it is good. Yeah.
I really feel like it depends on the audience.
Yeah,
Sometimes I see
I know.
people on an airplane and they're like, oh, what do you do for work? I'm like, fuck, dude.
My wife busts my balls too, because sometimes I like downplay it or I don't get into like the full story, but I get where you're coming from. Like I can read the sitch and I'm like, this isn't the audience for the long story. You
I'm
know
like,
what I
oh, this
mean?
guy
last
looks in
person-
shape. I'm telling him.
So it's like loud. It's loud on the airplane. This person I'm thinking of specifically was like, oh, what do you do for work? I'm like, I own an apparel brand. I'm like, what? Apparel brand? I'm like, apparel brand.
Clothing.
And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, like you ever, like I say, think of Vans. You know Vans?
Yeah.
Like Nike, like that's us, and that's where I leave it. Like,
Or I'll say business owner. I just
Yeah.
own my own business. Oh, really? What kind of business? I'm like, importing, exporting. You know, don't worry about
importing,
it.
export.
I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I might just start. Now that we're talking about this, I'm gonna start saying like entrepreneur, and if they want to know more, they
can ask.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can.
Or just my one boy's like, why don't you just tell them you're in the tech business or something? And then if they know about it, they'll call you out. But if not, they'll be like,
A
well,
lot
I
of
don't
people
know
with you
anything.
probably just think you're like a karate school, Like,
Yeah,
you teach
sometimes.
You teach karate.
You know what though? If I do have to really explain, like if I was like a party or something, I think about it. And I'm like, I think about that meme where the guy's like, it's like the one meme where the guy's like, he doesn't know that I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, and then other guys like, we all know he's a jiu-jitsu guy. You know what I mean? So I don't try to bring it up. But if there's like fights or something, someone will be like, yo, ask my boy Zach. He knows everything. He'll spin kick your head right off. I'm like, no, that's not me. And they're like, yeah, you used to fight. And then all of a sudden you have the conversation. But then sometimes may look stupid. I'm like, they're like, look, he's subbing him right there. He's got him in a sub. I'm like, actually, I don't think he can finish him there. He's got to get more to the side. And then the guy taps. I'm like, interesting.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, don't worry about it. You
Let's
know,
get back
but-
to the spin kicking
yeah.
your head off thing.
People are hype. Some people though, like I will give credit though. Some people will hype us up, like hype me and hype the crew up so much. Like, oh man, I know those guys. They're tough as nails down there. You know, they're always, the local guys telling people what's up. So, but sometimes it's just like, I don't feel like talking about it. But what I was going to bring up about my wife, I totally forgot. Is I made her come in and train with me though a couple of times. Like she was like, she did the women's class once, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I teach fundamentals Thursday 7. Come in and take that class. I wanted her to come in and see it and like see that people at the gym respect me and they're like, oh, he really knows what he's talking about. It's not like a joke thing where like I'm faking someone out. Like this is years of experience that I've been putting into this. Like when I'm teaching the class, it sounds like, when you go to a high level jiu-jitsu place, the professor sounds like a freaking scientist. Yeah. You're like, oh man, he's breaking this stuff down. Like it's not just I'm winging it. Like, and here's a triangle. Like there's a breakdown. Like I got to show the guy, and I'm teaching people and sweeps and theories and why to do this. And then she's like, oh okay. And then I think she understood. Like, oh, I respect this as a business, as a a lifestyle. Like he really cares about this. She doesn't train now, but like I made her do it though a couple of times.
So maybe, until that point, she may have questioned or
Didn't understand.
subconsciously, like what's my he's paying the bills, but like what's actually going on over there?
Yeah, or like when I'm leave, it's like, why do you want to be at the gym? People always make the jokes when the young guys have girlfriends and they're like, why do you want to be at the gym so much? I'm like, yeah, because people like and respect you there. Yeah, they want to be at the gym because people are doing fun things and there's something to do besides just sitting around at home. And then she would see me going in there and like all these people are posting things and everything. And now that she saw it and she was a part of it, she's been to the tournaments and all the family stuff and everything. She's like, oh, this is like a whole community of people. It's like a complete different thing than what most people would think of. Like, they probably think we just go in there and punch each other in the head and slam each other and go home. It's like totally different than that. It's like so much more of a community than just like a place that people go work out,
Do you guys do striking at
Oh yeah. We have our program where I just got off the phone with some of the guys. We're gonna hire one of our dudes, hopefully, to be like the full-time striking coach. Not just that he's teaching all the classes, because we have a lot of guys that teach because we have so many classes. The 2 mats really help us. Like when you have a 1 mat gym, you can only run 1 class at a time. Usually, some schools I'll see they'll do it, but in my opinion, just as a student, and no shot at these guys, but that would be annoying for me. Like if there's another class going on while this guy's teaching and that guy, I hate that. Someone's punching a bag while I'm trying to talk. It's just like we got to have quiet in here. So like whoever's teaching the class is in charge. But
that building, your building is just like insane.
What was it before?
Honestly, a
Was
lot
it
of
a school?
It was like they had a bounce
Factory?
U there. They
my
had like
God.
a trampoline
okay.
place,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
kind of weird setup. Then they had a laser tag, and then there was also a miniature golf. So like some guys that trained there had birthday parties at this place.
Oh,
They're like,
that's
I had a
wild.
birthday party at Finishers when I was a kid. He's like, I ate pizza right there, right while this guy's getting choked out.
That wasn't your first location, though, right?
No, we started. Oh my God, dude, we started. Well, I taught in like a couple of other people's gyms randomly, like when I was just trying to get started, or I think at the time when I was younger, like I'm 41, so when I was in my 20s and I was like actually thinking I could run my own spot, there was no money. I don't think there was money to be made. I don't think there was even the closest place to train was an hour away from me. You know, like they had Tiger Showman's and they had a couple of places, but it really just wasn't like a traditional, you know, I wanted a jiu-jitsu school, you know, I wanted an MMA gym, you know, and we just never had that around there. So I started to slowly, you know, let me branch out. Like, went to a boxing gym in Quakertown and I was teaching out of there till the guy went to jail and we came in and the place was closed one day. Like, all right, I guess we don't got a place. And then I would meet up guys in like, you know, like a high school gymnasium, like wrestlers, and I'd try to do moves there. And I'd always try to goat the guys from my old high school, like, come on, you guys should do it. This is while I was going to college. And then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to start a place. Let me just hit this one guy up and see if he'll let me teach there. I'm like, you don't have a jiu-jitsu program, really? Let me teach there. And then it started blowing up from there. And then his place went out of business. And then we opened up a really small, like, dude, it was probably like 700 square foot, you know, little place, and no wall mats, just a, you know, Fuji mats and guys throwing each other into breaking the walls, and like the place was a dump.
This is the place you were telling me
Yeah,
about.
yeah. It should have been probably condemned.
Those
you
are
know,
probably
when we
the
left.
days that like the memories there.
Yeah,
Probably.
it is fun. And the guys that now it's like a thing where they call the Team Hammer, where I first started it, the guys who started there and still train, which is like probably like 12 years now, I think I've been open, and or we've been actually in business. And guys then will be like, I'm from Bomb Squad. I started back in that gym. So they know, like, or they have a t-shirt, like, from, like, when it first started. They're like, yo, you don't talk to me, bro. I helped build this gym. You know, and the guys really take it seriously that have been around forever. And then the second gym, was by a Jimmy John's. So they're like, when did you start? They're like, yo, I've been around since Jimmy John's. I'm Jimmy John's, baby. And they're like, oh, okay. Ooh, sorry, this guy's been around forever. And then I had another gym after that. So I think I moved this one to 3. This is our third place in this spot, but really fourth if you count another place that I taught of. So,
Gotcha.
And then, man, lucked out with this place. COVID, you know, unfortunate situation. Like, place like that just wasn't gonna be able to stay in business. And I was following the place for like this is why I always tell people you can't give up on stuff. Like, when you think of something like, oh man, you know, that's not gonna work out. The guy told you no once. It doesn't mean he's going to tell you no in a year from now. You know, I'll just keep things on my radar. And I just kept going back to that spot. It's got like the steps. It's like a huge building, 2 mats, and then we have a gym in the back. Like, you just got the gym equipment here. It's so awesome. Like, just go there and like everything we need for MMA jiu-jitsu guy. Like, you can't complain. We got the cafeteria. You know, we got everything you need. And
it's a great facility, man.
being able to have
so
multiple
impressed.
classes like that really can up your you know, your revenue, you know what I mean? Because if you only have one class at a time, it's tough. You got to kick people off the mat. We got 2 mats. I mean, I don't even know half of the striking guys. You know, sometimes I'll meet a guy. It's like Fight Club. He'll come up to me. He's like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, yo, I train at Finishers. I'm like, oh snap, how you doing? I'm Zach. And they're like, yeah, I know you. You're one of the owners. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, it's like Fight Club. And they're like, really? I'm like, I never see you there. Like, I go Tuesday, Thursday. I'm like, oh, I'm there Monday, Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't see this guy, you know, and it makes a big difference.
And that's the hard part too. I mean, people don't realize that you're a business owner. Like, now, maybe before you're a black belt or a jiu-jitsu practitioner, it's like when you're scaling like that, it's like maybe hard to break away from those, and people start to see you as like selfish or money or greedy, or when really you're just trying to scale your business and take care of your family. Which I don't know if you've dealt with anything like that, breaking away from those roles of teaching every class, but
it's tough. It's a you know, fine line. Like, they want me to be the, you know, face of the company, like out here doing podcasts and promoting the brand and giving it a good look. But then, you know, I also can't do everything. So like, I need to be able to trust in the guys, and my team is really awesome. Like, they do a great job, but every now and then, you know, stuff happens and you're like, oh man, like, I got to double back and go back and fix this. And you know, people will give you shit for anything. I always say, you know, even with the tournament too, like, you could literally give everyone a free pizza in the world and they'll complain there wasn't pepperoni on it. You know what I mean? It's always something like, oh,
that's a great clip.
I don't know if I made that up, but if I did,
You just did.
I never heard it before, so apparently it's a Zach
I've been
clip.
saying that one a while, because it's true though, because, you know, and then like, I have to always think too with the gym, you know, it's different with every business, but with the gym, I have to make sure that the paying clients to get into it. Like the paying clients are the ones that are paying the bills to keep the lights on, that pay the Zach Maslaney, former UFC guy, former Bellator champion, to teach class. They're the ones who pay to have Renee to be able to represent the gym and have all these guys working there. So I can't have guys not being part of the team and not, you know what I mean? It seems like sometimes people will like not accuse me, but be like, he's such a homer. Like he'll just kick guys out if he doesn't like them, or like if you're not on the team, then you're not with them. Like, yeah, no shit. You know what I mean? This is our team. It's not me. Finishers is bigger than me, but I have to at least, if I'm going to be out here doing this stuff, and then I'm also keeping track of the guys at the gym, I have to be like, hey, look, you need to tell these dudes. In striking, guys got to wear T-shirts. We're not sparring every night. That sparring is Thursdays. That's why there's rules. And a lot of the guys don't like rules. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid and I trained at Tiger Schulman's, I was against all the rules that they had. I was like, these rules suck. You got to wear what they tell you to wear.
So
yeah, I was that
about
guy. You know what I mean? So I empathize with them, but I also tell them, like, I always tell the guys, please be easy on the guys, because they don't know. A lot of guys are just young, full of piss and vinegar or whatever they say, and they're just ready to fight. They just want to go in there and bang their head against the wall.
They want to
Most of us we want to talk to them and talk them out of that and get them into guiding them along the path so they're not hurt and they become a student. And as a business owner, they're paying to be there. I want to keep them as a student for a long time. I don't want to have turnover where like we sign up 30 dudes, we lost 40.
You're running through them.
Yeah, it's like guys are getting hurt and everything. And look, that does happen. A guy got his nose broken last week.
On his
surgery.
trial class?
No. No, this guy had been training. No, if that happened, I would kill everyone. But shit like that has happened though, where they've let the trial guy, like sometimes like it's like a guy teaching whatever, he's not paying attention. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Let him run wild.
And they let the trial guy who wrestled a little bit like go in there with the white T-shirt and he's, getting choked unconscious or something. I'm like, guys. Like we can't let that kind of crap happen. A lot of times we just learn lessons and they didn't know. They didn't do anything on purpose, but we put the rules out there for them and then we tell them, just be easy on the people, just be hard on the rules. You don't even have to say, I'm like, don't say, Zach said that it's got to be like this. I just tell them, look, we all sat down and these are the rules that we all came up with. When you're sparring or when you're in the regular class, when there's women and kids and other people around, you got to wear a T-shirt and you got to wear all the gear when you're sparring. Okay, guys are in there with no helmets and stuff. It's like, guys, you have to tell them. You have to tell them. And then you're like, hey, man, listen, it's just the rules we came up with. It's keeping everybody safe, blah, blah. Then, okay, strike two. You're like, yo, bro, like, listen, I just told you got to wear a helmet. And then
they're probably like, do I go to a crazy Baja now? Like, is that, you get that kind of...
Yeah, well, they just like, like a guy will be like, oh, man, I know 3 dudes that said if they're not going to be sparring during the week, it's going to be a problem. I'm like, a problem for who? Them, because we're not sparring during the week. And not only did I tell them no sparring, that a guy got kneed in the face. Now, it wasn't on purpose, but still, though, stuff happens. You know what I mean? So it's like, I told you guys, that's not the time.
Yeah. I was talking to AVR, Adam von Ronfelder, here in Strong Coffee Company at Strong, New York. We were last month. And he said he was doing a striking class. He said he had to stop going because he did Muay Thai back in the day. He's like this woman, like single, our mother of 3, like dipped her head. He's like, my instinct was just pop. He's like uppercut her. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like it was an instinct. He's like, I rattled her bell, but like, I was like, he's like, I really just like don't like. But my literally reaction was to do that.
I see it happen in jiu-jitsu too. I never get mad at the guys. Sometimes they're like, going really hard, like, and emotions get, same. I just had it with the kids, the two young kids, 2 boys, 12 years old, 115, 110-pound kids, and they're kicking the crap out of each other. And the one kid shoots in, takes him down hard, guillotines him. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. He's crying. Let one of the other coaches tell him. He guillotines the other kid. Now he's kind of crying. And I'm like, look, have a talk with them afterwards and tell him like, hey, you guys got to take care of each other. You guys got to be,
your teammates.
Yeah, and then you got to tell the parents. And look, and a lot of our parents are really good. They're like, hey, we're going to keep putting them together until they get it, till they learn how to train with each other, And sometimes it's like that with the guys too. So it's not always, I want to let them know, it's not always like immediately I'm throwing them out, But look, strike 3, if you're hurting the guys or you're hurting the team, we're not going to be like, you're kicked out, but it's going to be an easy like, hey man, we cancel your membership. It's not about the money. You just are not serving the team and
Yeah.
everybody else is helping the team, you're not, you can't train anymore.
So you give them a chance to change? Or?
Yeah, we've given guys plenty of chances. We let dudes come back, after a while, like give them like a cooling off period, like I'm down to help everybody. And I feel like I'm even easier than some of the other guys. Some of my other coaches are like gone, like the second they I want them out because they get
Fuck
mad.
that
And
dude.
I know that I was kind of crazy when I was a kid. So I have to be like, hey, we got to let this guy, we got to give him an opportunity to not go crazy. You know what I mean? And sometimes, look, sometimes people are going to go crazy and there's nothing you could do.
Yeah. So
I was gonna,
Good.
we literally like hopped in the conversation. So I just want to, for the few, can you just tell people how you ended up becoming
Big Uncle Zach.
and also like your story, like just take us through your life.
Yeah,
for
so
a few minutes.
we want to know. We know Big Uncle Zach now. We want
Right,
to know
yeah.
maybe like little
how
kid
did you get
Zach a
here?
little bit. How'd you get here?
Man, I'll try to paraphrase because it's a long story, but I'll try to paraphrase some of the good points. But when I was a kid, I was kind of like my parents got divorced when I was young, so I was like always going back and forth. And two great parents, mom and dad, are awesome. But when you're a middle child of a bunch of kids, like I'm kind of like being passed back and forth. Nothing on them; they just had to work. So I've been kind of like grew up a little fast on my own when I first was a little kid. So I was doing a lot of things on my own. And then when I finally moved to my dad's, I didn't have any friends, and I was very outgoing. So I was like, man, I want to get into something, but I didn't really like the style of the kids at the gym. So they're like, or at the school. So my dad was like, I'm going to put you and your brother into karate. And I was like, okay. I had no idea. I didn't even want to do it. I had no idea. 12, I think, 13. I really had no clue what it was about. My dad watched Terminator. You know what I mean? He watched, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, all those guys, Van Damme, all the
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. He watched all those movies, so he always let us watch them as kids. Like
Were you
rated
living
R
in
movies.
Bethlehem at the time?
Yeah, Bethlehem. Yep. And so then I was like, all right, I'll try this. And I went up to the gym. They put us in, me and my brother, and it was it. And the reason why he says, and it ties back in, but he put us in because of Chuck Norris. He loved Chuck Norris. I was like his favorite guy, Walker, Texas Ranger. And then
He doesn't love Chuck
yeah,
Norris.
I mean, come on, with the jeans and the shoes. He bought me the Chuck Norris. I had the kicks back in the day, so I could like throw the real fast kicks and stuff. And we got into it. My brother ended up getting his black belt, but man, I started when I was 12, and by the time I was 14, I was doing the adult class, and I just loved it. I would go there every day, and I never worked out before that, but I never played like traditional sports, but I always did like backyard
What
stuff.
belt did you get to in karate?
Karate, I got my 2nd degree black belt.
Okay.
So I got my black belt under Tiger Schulman, you know what I mean?
Shit.
But I trained with them for a while, and then I started fighting for them when I was, I think I did my first MMA fight when I was 19. So
do you know like Shane Burgos? And,
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Lyman, all
Those
guys?
guys were all kind of kid. Lyman, he started a little bit after like close to when I was leaving, but most of those guys like Shane and Jimmy Rivera and a ton of the kids that all made it into UFC, Nick Pace, all them. They Mike Trezano trained with him a couple times. Like all those guys were like kind of young kids. They were like the kids they bring out to like start the show before the real fights come on. Like Jimmy Rivera come out there and fight some other like 10-year-old kid, and you're like, man, this guy's gonna be a beast, when he gets older. And then they became beasts.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
When you were training at Tiger Schulman, were you just doing karate? Because I think Shane and Lyman have told us like they did like jiu-jitsu and karate at the same time.
Yeah, it started. So when those guys started, or when they were kids, it might have already been converting over. Like I lied. I actually started at Master Glazier Karate, and it was Master Glazier sold all of his schools to Tiger Schulman. So it was like almost like it felt like a Sons of Anarchy like patch over. Like one day they just, hey, big meeting at the school, 7 p.m. Friday night. All the guys come in. Everybody at the karate school comes in, and at this time we're doing
Team Tiger.
katas, board breaking, no sparring. Like the sparring was like light touch type stuff. And they were just like, hey, look, Tiger Schulman's buying us out, and the belt rankings are different. So some people are going to go down in rank and stuff. People are like, what? I'm losing my green belt with 2 stripes. I'm out. I'm done. And people quit, literally just quit. And it was like a whole thing because they always had contracts. Like you got to sign like a year, 2 year, 3 year contract to train. Like this is a contract to get your black belt. And it was like, when I look back at the stuff and I actually think about it, some of their marketing strategies back in the day were like genius. You know, they had stuff where they got people in there, and you know, it was like a whole thing. You got to pay for your belts, you got to pay for all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then what Tiger did, and I give him a lot of credit. He was way ahead of the game, I think, than a lot of people. He was like, the game is changing to MMA, right? MMA started, and they used to have a competition called a bare knuckle, where they would have guys, you could take the guy down and grapple for a minute and do subs, and then they'd stand you back up. No gloves, no pads, but you couldn't hit to the face. You could, listen, these rules are insane. You could punch to the body, you could kick the legs, kick the body, but you could kick to the head. And you could knee to the head. It made absolutely no sense.
No.
And when you took them to the ground, though, no face shots. You can only hit to the body. So it was wild, though. But then some guys kind of figured, like, oh, I can knee. Watch this. You know what I mean? And it was on like a platform. It was crazy. Like, I need to bring up some of those older videos. And I went to the first. I think I went to the second one. They called it the bare knuckle, and it was crazy. It was they would have that. They have a big tournament called Challenge of Champions, and that's like a 2-day tournament. They would have the bare knuckle fights Saturday night, and people, all the adults would come. It was insane. I remember watching that, being like, I'm doing this. You know, I'm doing this. And eventually, though, I think it got banned or whatever, so they ended up stopping it. But he was ahead of the game. He was like, okay, instead of we're getting rid of weapons, so we're not going to do nunchucks and board breaking. That's out. And we're going to replace the striking that we're going to do. We're going to have people start wearing boxing gloves and MMA gloves. And then the jiu-jitsu we're going to do, you're going to take off the gi, like we would wear like a gi with like sleeves. And it was crazy. I looked like a freaking like 10-star general with that shit, bro. I had like different color stripes, stars on this side, stars. I'm like, I don't even know what these things are for. You know what I mean? They're just like, dude, another blue star. You know, and then
You look like Chuck Norris.
yeah, exactly. You were like the uniforms. That's one thing I will give old school karate. The uniforms were awesome.
Oh, yeah,
they were
on
sick.
point.
Some of the ones, like every now and then, like Tiger would show up to like a demonstration or some shit, and he would show up in like some new gi, and you'd be like, people would be like, the red gi with the white belt. Like, it was nuts. Like, he was probably just sitting back like, I don't know, I'm gonna rock a green one for now. Like, what does that mean? My dad would always be like, I don't get it. Like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't think it means anything.
You don't have to.
Yeah. He's like, I don't understand.
A few people know this is a few on show exclusive. I'm an orange belt in
Nice.
in karate.
Yeah, there you go.
How did I not even know
when
that?
I was like 10. So
Yeah.
I
I don't
can't
even know
do
that.
shit. I could barely kick.
It was weird. I mean,
I wish I fucking stuck with it though. I'd probably do some cool ass shit now.
Yeah.
I can still.
I was at Amerikick though. It was probably your competitor.
Amerikick, that was kind of like Master Glazier, same kind of thing. It's like a taekwondo. They still have karate schools around, which blows my mind. I don't know who goes there, but maybe just kids. I have no idea.
Kids,
but,
a lot of
yeah,
kids,
but so then when they went to the grappling, we would take that uniform off and you wear a t-shirt and gi pants, and they would still wear the belt. And I'll never forget, I was on America Online, right? When my dad finally got a computer, because he was a computer guy. We had
in the
America
day.
Online, dial up, doing all those things.
28.8,
Yeah.
AOL.
Yeah, AOL, whatever it was called. They used to send you the
America
disc in the
Online.
mail.
They used to spam you with those discs.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just install it. See how
We
it
would
goes.
just throw them like discs, like throw them like frisbees and stuff. But my dad got on that stuff, and I remember first looking up videos, and right away I was like MMA, and there were like clips of videos of like dudes getting knocked out. Like, they would show the old Boss Root and Pancration stuff, and then I saw some videos of a guy teaching jiu-jitsu moves, and it was Eddie Bravo teaching rubber guard in Japan, and it was all dubbed over.
What?
That was the first video I ever seen.
That long ago?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And he was wearing gi pants and a t-shirt, because that's what he would wear. And then he started wearing a rash guard, but we didn't even know about rash guards. Tiger Stone didn't have rash guards. We just wore t-shirts.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Bravo had t-shirts for sale on his website eventually, but he never had rash guards for a time being.
What year was that?
I want to say 2000. It was right after he put out the first book. So I was just getting done with high school, and I was just starting to get into like actually fighting. But I remember seeing that. I'm so bad with times too, like in dates. I'm like, I don't know. I'll be like, that was 2011. They're like, dude, that was 2001. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a one in it.
There's a one in it.
I saw him doing like flexibility moves, and for some reason I was born with weird hip like flexibility where I can like grab my foot and like with no stretching be able to do the rubber guard move. So I saw that and I was like, man, this is right up my alley. And at Tiger, we were only learning, like, they had formats where you would learn grappling, and I blew through them shits. Like, I want to learn everything. And then once I knew them, coming to class, it's like, oh, it's A again. I'm like, oh, I already know this. I'm like, I've done this a million times. I got to start looking at other moves. And then I found out he had a book. And I'm like, oh, well, there's books on this? I had no idea. I'm like, Dad, why didn't you tell me there were books? He's like, I didn't know you wanted books. So then we went and got books. And I remember even ordering UFC, started selling videos like through Black Belt magazine. And I bought a Ken Shamrock leg lock DVD. And I bought, a
How
boss
old were you
room.
at this time?
Probably like 19.
Okay.
18,
And you
something
were
like
like,
that.
I'm fighting.
Yeah, I wanted to fight. I saw them bare knuckles when I was probably like 16 or 17. I was like, dude,
That's
I
it.
need to get in this somehow. And then my one boy, Bill, who trains at John Jocks, and then that'll bring it full circle, but he worked at a place called 48 Hours Video, and it was like one of, old Blockbuster type,
Yeah, I
but
remember them. Yeah.
low-key place. 48 Hours was
got
better than
old
Blockbuster.
heads.
Yeah.
And if you know about 48 Hours, like this might be R-rated, but that place, they had Blockbuster didn't have this, but they had like a curtain area.
had a curtain
And I always
in the
walk
back.
in there when I was a kid and be like, what's back there? My dad would be like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what kind of tapes are back there? And he's like, don't worry about
where
it.
the jiu-jitsu tapes are?
Yeah, well, so they had, what they did at this place is they had that section. And since my buddy worked there in high school, he'd be like, yo, come down. Nobody's here. You guys can do whatever you want. So I could just go back there and be like, whoa, what the? Like, this is insane. I can't believe, because back in the day, like they had things where like huge boxes. You would be like, wow. But on the way to that, like before
Well, no,
you got
you had like the box in front of the VHS
Yeah,
tapes.
exactly. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like it was a box.
Yeah, you
like,
could look and
check
see it
out.
had all this stuff on the back, because now it's just like that's the movie. But you would like read about it and everything. But before you got to the secret area, there was a like special interest. And it had like weird like dance videos and like workout videos. And then at the bottom it had 2 rows of like fighting videos. And my buddy was like, dude, you're never gonna believe. That's how I found out about UFC. He was like, dude, you're never gonna believe this. They got these fight videos down here. And I think 1 through 3 was already out, and I had never heard of it. I couldn't believe I was at Tiger Schulman's. They never told me about this. I'm like, did you guys not know this was going on? It's crazy. And then we came down and we started watching it on the 40, like at the place. He would put it on the TV, and there'd just be like 6 people. And then he'd get guys would
So
be
you
like,
didn't even have to rent it,
coming to
dude.
buy stuff, and they'd be like, what's this? And then dudes would just be standing there watching it.
A bunch of you guys just standing around watching.
Yeah. I mean, imagine watching no fights ever, like boxing. That's all you had as a, could say. And then you watch that and you see like the guys getting their face, teeth kicked in, and you're like, what is this? You know?
So we can thank the adult section at
Yeah.
48-hour video
Well, no, it was like-
for your entry into fighting.
Yeah.
That was like it was like the section before the curtain.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they tucked it like in the
No,
back.
I'm saying, but
that
if we
special
didn't have that
interest shit.
section, then you would have
Oh,
never
yeah,
stumbled
yeah.
upon the.
Well, they
the
acted
fighting
like
video.
that was almost R-rated stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like, banned from TV. Like you don't, you had to be
I was
18
back there
to
with like
rent
the
those.
Faces of Death.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, they had those near
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. Yeah.
That was so weird, bro. Like I'd be like, I just want to see the fights, man. And then I kept renting them, kept getting them, got into that, and then I think I did my first fight was I do remember this. It was 2002, Wildwood Convention Center, and I ended up being somehow was the main event. One of our guys, he was like a professional Muay Thai guy, and Tiger Schulman was their first time they were going to put people into MMA. They never did MMA before. And it was Shannon Maceo, Dave Torelli, who is a judge in MMA right now. And not to bring up old stuff, but I don't know if I think it was Sean Strickland versus who did he fight? Who's the one guy? I saw it. I was at the Newark Center. I can't remember the guy's name, but anyways, he gave it to the other guy. All the judges had it for Strickland, and he gave it to the other guy. And it was like a whole thing. It was like, that one judge doesn't know anything. I'm like, I know that guy. I used to train with that guy. He might have CTE or whatever, but I don't know I don't know what fight he was watching. You know what I mean? I have no idea what fight he was watching, but it was him. It was a girl. I think it was Shannon DeAugust and Elvis Garcia fought. I mean, you guys are from Philly. Do you remember Brad Daddis? You ever hear of Brad Daddis? Brad Daddis had a bunch of schools around here for a while, and I don't know what happened to him, but he fought, and it was like the first time they ever did it. And Shannon, I was the same weight, 145. He was fighting this guy, Nick Catone. It was for a title, an MMA title.
know Nick Catone.
Reality Fighting 2. Not the one Nick Catone. It's a wrestler. There's 2 Nick Catones.
Okay.
It's another wrestler, Nick Catone. I don't know if he's around anymore, but and this guy got poked in the eye like 2 weeks before, and they're like, "Do you want to do the fight?" I'm like, "Yeah." He brought me in the office. He's like, you want to take this fight? I'm like, hell yeah. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I remember I took the card home and it said no holds barred, and my dad was like, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" I'm like, "The guy said I was good. I don't know." I was like, I think I know what I'm doing. I watch enough stuff. Let's
Were
let
you
it ride.
good in the gym at that point? Like, were you like?
Yeah, I was doing. That's why they gave me the opportunity, because I was like this dude's main sparring partner, and like I was actually doing. And this is how I think I got first popular like fighting and stuff was I was doing jiu-jitsu stuff. I was like, they were doing like passing, like mostly striking.
But
and
you
like
weren't-
I was enough to handle myself doing striking as I actually did the golden gloves too. But then the grappling part, it was easy to set yourself apart because no one knew any moves. You know what I mean?
And you weren't like training jiu-jitsu at that point. You were just like
I was just
trying stuff
watching
you
on
saw
my own. That Tiger
Randy Robbins,
Showman's.
DDJ.
They were teaching stuff, but it was like, you know, some of the stuff just they didn't know what to teach. There was like a rumor that he was paying Brazilians to come in and teach him moves, and then he would act like he taught it to us. But I have no idea, you know. But I
So how did that first fight go?
I won by TKO actually, but so the guy kept taking me down. And dude, right when they said it was like reality fighting is still running, and it's the Naga, the guy who owns Naga, he runs that, and it was so cool. It used to be in an octagon ring, and I actually called him up and asked him if I could buy it off him, but he's like, we got rid of that years ago. But it was an octagon ring with like 6 ropes or whatever, so you couldn't fly through it. So it was cool because you could bounce off the side and come back with punches, whatever. And it wasn't like the cage where they could just take you down and hold you up against the cage. That's annoying. So if someone doubled you into the ropes, you kind of like, it promoted grappling. Like there was still crazy striking. And there were a ton of guys that fought when I fought, like Tim Sylvia, Tom DeBlas. Like there were a ton of guys who fought I have all and what's cool at the gym, I have most of all the old cards framed and have them just around the gym. But I got out there and I was like, oh my God, if you rewatch the fight, the ref goes, go. And the guy just walks at me and I didn't even move. I just like froze in like a fighting stance, like, okay. And then like he grabbed my legs. I like missed on a punch and then he took me down. And I was just literally full guard holding him. And I guess I've always had good guard recovery. And I just kept getting my guard back. And then every time they'd stand us up, he'd get a little bit more tired. You know, and then I'd start like, okay, now I'd kick him in the legs. And then he just made the mistake of trying to strike with me with zero. I mean, this is the days when it was just like, this guy wrestled in college. That's it. Like he never even took a striking class, let alone I'd been doing karate since I was a kid. So I just did the old look down and then kick high and ended up kicking him in the face. And he went down and then they stopped it because of blood. You know, he was just bleeding all over the place. And I won a title in my first fight. And I was like, all right, let's go. I'm going to UFC. Obviously, I didn't. But
was your dad there?
Yeah, he was there. He was scared shitless because the first fight and my first girlfriend was there too. And she was same thing. She like turned white because the first fight, the dude, he was a Philadelphia guy too named Stephen High, and he grabbed the guy in a tie clinch and just kneed him like 4 times in the head. And the last knee, he like kneed him and the guy like was like out on his feet, and the ref's like, it's over. And then the guy falls over, like lifeless body. And my dad's like,
What?
What is going on?
he's like, you're the main event. He's like, you're the last fight. He's like, dude, I hope you know what you're doing, man. I hope you know what you're doing.
All the violence doesn't culminate to your
He's like,
fight.
that was the first prelim.
Yeah, it was literally the first fight. As he was walking in, he just sees a guy just getting kneed into like oblivion.
And he really didn't have any experience with like these fights before.
Never
he's
seen
probably
it.
Like, what
I
the
knew. He was like, Zach's lying.
Yeah.
He does not know what he's
He's like,
doing.
I imagine just from the way you were talking about him, like your relationship was probably like super funny.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
So I don't imagine him like saying this to you, be like, "What the fuck is my son doing?"
Yeah. I do remember we went out to like a bar afterwards, and we were like walking down the street, and someone drove by, and I had to. I mean,
was gonna say,
I've been watching WWF since I'm a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
so
like
you're-
Hulk Hogan, and we used to make championship belts out of towels. Me and my cousin wrestle each other, and I've always had this in my head about one day being a champion of something. When I won that shit, that was like still the best of my career because I mean I won other things too, but having that belt walking down the street of Jersey, like right after the convention center, like you know my eye like is
Wildwood.
kind of messed up, and my dad's there and everything like that. It was a dope experience. Someone drove by and was like, "Yo, fuck Tiger Showman's." And another guy that was with us, like just a dude that was training, yeah, come back here and say that. We got the belt, pussy. And I was like, yo, guys. Yeah, my dad was like, this is crazy. He's like, I never would have pegged you for doing something. Like he always knew I was outgoing. And like my grandmother and my grandfather would always say that you're either going to be a lawyer or a teacher or something like that. Someone just, you know, you got to be able to use your mouth and get out there and talk. Like that's what, because, you know, they would say I always do stuff like that. And then my dad was like, I didn't think you'd ever like be a fighter. You know, he's like, you were scared of like riding on my speedboat when I was a kid. You were scared of these things. I didn't think, he's like, I have anxiety. My dad always says he has anxiety. He's like, I couldn't go out there in front of all those people in my underwear and just fist fight a guy and think I'm going to win. He's like, I would shit my pants before I even left. You know what I mean? So he's definitely like super proud of me. And like, you know, just seeing the business and stuff when he comes by, he's just like, I don't even understand this. Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? Believe me, he's more than happy for it. But
I mean, he gets part of the credit for putting you in karate.
Yeah. Well, now let's bring it back together. So I got my I saw Eddie Bravo. I was like, I'm gonna get my black belt on this guy. And like, sometimes I put my mind to something. I'll just, like you guys, same way. I'll just figure it out. Like, there doesn't have to be a path. I'll figure it out. Like, he lives in Cali. Something will happen. And my one buddy Bill and another friend of mine, Sean, they moved out to LA to be he's a teacher, but I don't know what he was, just trying to do something different. And my buddy Sean moved out to be a comedian. And I was like, oh man, I'll just go out there. And I already did like a fight or two. And I went out there and I stayed with them. And I was like just partying for a week in LA because I was in, you know, my early 20s. And I was like, you know what?
Living the dream.
I bet Eddie Bravo's around here somewhere. I bet I could find him because I knew he was in LA. And I literally went on his computer, looked it up, 1.5 miles from where I was staying.
Are you kidding me?
I walked to it for a whole week. I was like, I extended my stay for another week. I was like, I'm just going to walk down there. And I just walked down, and the lady was like, I was still not ranked, but I had got my, I think, black belt in karate or whatever. So I walked in, and she's like, what are you here for? I was like an hour early, and they're like, yo, the class starts 15 minutes late. You know what I mean? Even back then, they were like, we never started on time. I'm like, all right. She's like, are you a blue belt? You got to be at least a blue belt and have experience. I'm like, yeah, I'm a blue belt. So I just lied to her, and she's like, all right, you're good. And then I went in there, and I started taking class. I just jumped in his class, and I remember he called me out. Like the first day, I think he didn't see me, but second day, he was like, hey, who are you? He's like, where do you train? I was like, I train at Tiger Schulman's. And he knew who he was. He's like, karate guy getting into jiu-jitsu. He's like, that's cool, man. And then like ever since then, like I just would show up there. And, you know, it was like probably like 8 years, 10 years maybe of me just being around 10th Planet-ish. And then like, or trying to just hit rubber guard moves or put someone in a twister, post it online, then tag them in it. Or like forums were big back in the day. So I'd go on the forum and be like, yo, East Coast Zach, you know, I just hit more rubber guard. When are you going to put me on? You know, and he'd be like, whoa, that's sick. And if you got a comment back from Eddie back in the day, it was like, damn, like he's actually looking at me, you know. In Pennsylvania, there's nobody out here doing 10th Planet. And it was more the like Instagram now where you could just, like, I learned, you know how I've been teaching a lot of the Danny, Myra, and Nick. I've been watching the little thing that they did with you guys. I watch that all the time. I'm like, that's interesting. That's not my style, but I got to teach the guys this. So like, you couldn't just readily get moves like that. So like everybody, even Donaher, everybody was hiding moves. So Eddie was like, oh, the fact that you're figuring that out through books and stuff is pretty crazy. And what's crazy, it wasn't just me. There were guys that did it all over even in Australia, there were guys doing it. You know, same thing. And then I just trained with them a bunch. And then finally I was like, you know what? I was out here. I started getting more into, I went through like a breakup and I was just kind of on my own again. I was like, you know what, dude? I should just go back to martial arts full time. It's the only thing I've really been interested in, good at. I'm going to just start a gym. Screw it. And I had a bunch of guys that kind of trained at Tiger, wrestlers, high school buddies, family, that I'm just going to do. I'm going to round up every straggler in the book and be like, just take this freaking class with me when I start teaching. And then I told Eddie, like, hey, man, like, I'm going to teach 10th Planet, whether you like it or not. Like, so either let me be an affiliate and let me pay you, or I'm just going to still teach 10th Planet.
Anyway.
And he was like, all right.
Were you a black belt at that point?
In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
No, I never got ranked in jiu-jitsu by anyone but Eddie. So I was a white belt, really. And then he was like, what rank are you? I was like, I don't have a rank or anything. He's like, but you got fights though, and you did all those matches. I was like, we just been training ourselves, dog. You know, that's what we're doing. He was like, all right, well, come out here and train with me or whatever, and then we'll, you know, see what's up. I was like, all right, well, I've trained with you a million times, but whatever. And then it just so happens that they had Rochester was the closest 10th Planet, right? Shout out to Chris Herzog, 10th Pete Rochester. And he's one of like the founding 10th Planet guys. And they had a tournament, 55 tournament. Like it was before, when Eddie was just about to start getting into running sub-onlys. And he wanted to do EBI. You know, EBI became very famous. And he was like, you know what, I'm going to just have when I go to teach these seminars and have these camps and all these guys come, why don't I just start having their young best guys fight each other? And that's how we can kind of start the matches, because he was like toying with the rules and stuff. And ours was just, it was just a no time limit sub only 155 for like $500, and they didn't even advertise.
No
like,
time limit?
Yeah, no time limit matches. Yeah, and I was like, I call him up. I was like, I hit up Herzog. I'm like, yo, let me in. Let me get into 55. And he's like, you're not from 10th Planet. I was like, but I'm coming to the seminars and I paid. He's like, nah, sorry, dog, not from 10th Planet. I was like, all right. So I went up there, and then Eddie teaches a whole seminar, so I'm not thinking I'm going to compete or anything like that. And I'm always under 155. I never really go over that. And he was just like, came out and he goes, all right, we're going to break, for lunch, and then we're going to come back and have a tournament. And, 55 is going to be sick. And actually someone got sick, so we need one more guy. And like the two dudes I was with were just like, and I was like, yo, I'll do it. And he was like, all right, you, my man, what's your name? I was like, Zach Maslaney.
He's met you a few times.
Yeah, a million times. And he's like, Zach Mesklin? He's like, oh, yeah, you're good, man. Wait. He's like, wait, I know you. He's like, all right, yeah, let him do it. And then
that's amazing,
two guys
dude.
got their purple belt that day, and I tapped both of those guys. I tapped the one guy with an arm bar, and I got the other guy with a toe hold. And then the third guy beat me by knee bar after like 15 minutes. Yeah. So I was pissed. But he was already a purple belt, and I didn't have any belt. And I was wearing a brown 10th Planet t-shirt. Eddie's like, are you a brown belt? I was like, no, I bought this off your website. And he's like, well, what belt are you? I'm like, oh, white, I guess. And he's like, oh, you never got a belt. He's like, those are ranked shirts. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I just bought the shirt. So I'm rolling around with a brown belt, and these guys are like, what the hell with this guy? Yeah. And then I did go out to LA for a week or two and trained with him. And then in one of the classes, he was just like, he would use, and even before I like even got closer with him, he would always use me for demonstrations because I think I know how to move to not like, and to make my job as an uke or whatever is to make, my guys don't understand this. So guys, get this through your skull. Your job is to make me look good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when Eddie would do the moves on me, I'd go up there and just let him, whatever he's doing, I like act like I'm getting jacked up. Like in WWE, like you got to sell it. You're like, oh, I'm like making him look good. And he's like, oh, I like this guy. He's my weight. I'm lighter than him, but I'm small enough to where he can throw me around to where it looks good. And I know the moves, so it's easy for him. He didn't have to be like, oh, put your leg here, put your leg here. And the other guy's like, how many times I've seen him doing that, trying to show the truck to somebody, and they're just legs in the wrong position. And he's just like, come on, dude.
You got to give the right reaction.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
so when you went out with your buddies, right, that first time you extended your stay by a week, right? So you're there for a week training there, right, with Eddie, and then you come back to the East Coast. Yeah. And you're just training here, and then periodically are you going to the West Coast?
Yeah, I would just go visit them like during the summer for like a week. And then just stay out there, like
so
stay
you weren't
for like
even out
weeks.
there like all that.
Nah.
It's not like you went out for months at a time.
Nah, I wish. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is like the power of the universe and like you setting your mind to something and like saying it's gonna happen and then actually like the guy getting sick, like, and like shit like that doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? Like you fucking said it was gonna happen and it fucking happened.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a quote. I like always take music, like especially rap music, because they say a lot of crazy stuff. But I always take like some of the stuff in the quotes, like where it makes sense to like business stuff, where it like hypes me up. Like the one Ludacris one, he's got a line in there where he says, "If I said it, I've either meant it, he goes, if I said it, I've either done it or it's about to happen." Yeah. And and it's like in my mind, it's like sometimes wife's like, "Oh, you came up with an idea, you didn't even do it." I'm like, I'm not even done with that one yet. I'm just working on that. Yeah. And that's happened to me so many times where, I mean, how did I stay at a guy's place and it was a 1.5 mile walk? I walked to it. I literally walked to the gym. It could have been anywhere. LA's huge. Yeah. You can't even get from downtown to Pasadena, which is 12 miles. It takes 2 hours to get there. Yep. You know what I mean? So it was
to your rap point. The 10 Crack Commandments are basically the rules of the few.
Yeah, it's true.
I will say, man, like our musical taste, I believe, is very, very, very similar. Now we're the same age, but like sometimes you'll post and you'll have like an old school like Jadakiss banger on there, and I'm like,
East Coast, even the West Coast guys don't know about that. I've even had to tell Eddie Bravo. He was like, one time we were driving around, he's like, "Who is this? This is sick." I'm like, "This is Big L." Yeah. I'm like, "How do you not know Big L?"
Ebonics.
Yeah,
we have Gangster on rotation here.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. The West Coast guys, I'm not gonna fault them too much.
It's funny you say that because I picked up a song from one of your posts, the song "Cry" by Jay-Z. I fucking been bumping.
That's one of my favorite songs.
That was never really one of my songs, but I heard it when you posted it the one time, and I've been bumping it. It's on my list now.
There's some Jay-Z's got some old ones that are like people don't even know about. That there's so much knowledge.
I'm not privy to. Yeah, I'm still working through them.
Though I'll send you some. I'll send you a playlist. But some of our guys listen to newer stuff, and I mean, some of it is good. I still like it, but some is like, dude, I don't even know what they're saying.
Changed,
man.
Man.
Big time.
Big time.
Not that the belts mean anything or whatever, but I understand. I just need to know at what point you got a belt or a black belt. Like, do you go from beating people's asses to like actually being like ranked? Like,
Oh yeah, no. So that when I went out there again, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can like get with them and like go out to dinner or something and be like, because I didn't know what like how people just throw affiliations around sometimes now. But back then, the get one was like, yo, if I'm gonna let you be the guy in Pennsylvania, like that's East Coast, like you got to know what's up. And he was just like, look, you got to be ready when some guy rolls through your gym, it's 170 and tries to kick your ass. You know, and test you. You got to be ready because that's kind of what dudes would do to Eddie all the time. That's why his body's so beat up because he was
that's what they do.
going to war with everybody at all times. But when I went out there and he was like, yeah, so he brought me up to do a demonstration with him or whatever, and he was like showing the moves, and he's like, they would always film MTS, you know, his like series. So if you got on that series, it was like next level. And this is right when Gio and Boogie were starting to get big too. Those guys were starting to get like, they were only like blue belts or something like that, and they were getting pretty popular. So I kind of came up the ranks with those guys. And but Eddie was like, this is Zach. If you guys don't know Zach, he's going to be running 10th Planet out in Pennsylvania. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I'm running 10th Planet out in Pennsylvania.
Do you have a belt yet?
Yeah,
No, I was still a white belt. Yeah, and then he was leaving. It was like the last day, and I didn't even think about it because you don't wear your belt.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there like going to war with dudes with sweatpants on and stuff. It don't matter. Like guys are wearing weird shit. And he was leaving. He was coming out of the shower, and I remember like they would always like because it was at the old tap out gym where I finally the first tap out gym when I first started like actually like okay now I'm 10th Planet, you know. And he was leaving. He took a shower and he was leaving. I was kind of hanging outside. I was like, yo Eddie, I was like, so what do I got to do? He's like, just email me and then we'll get it all set up. I was like, yo. He's like, what? I'm like, well, what do I do about like the belts and shit? Like, what do I tell people about that? He's like, oh, you're not a blue belt? I'm like, no. He's like, dude, you're a blue belt. I'm like, yes. And then that's how I got my blue belt. He never actually gave me a belt. You know what I mean?
But you've been training for like what at that point, like 8 years?
Yeah, I'd already had like professional. I mean, there wasn't professional and amateur, but I already had like pro MMA fights.
And you had already beaten those purple belts and brown belts.
I was like, oh shit, I'm a blue belt. This is sick. I actually was hyped about it because I got to go like back because I never did that. And like I always liked getting belts in karate. So I figured, hey, this will be fun. I'll just get a belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I never cared about it because it wasn't like a big thing. But when I got my black belt, like it kind of like was like, whoa, I just got my black belt from Eddie Bravo. This is something that I set out to do 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And somehow I achieved that, which is pretty crazy because he's only got like, under him, I think he only has like 60 or something like that.
What's your dad say at this point? You're like, okay, by the way, now I have a belt. Now
He's
10th Planet on the East Coast.
Yeah, your
Pennsylvania.
dad, if I have to guess, he just thinks like Zach's just doing his thing. Like I can't really contain it.
Sometimes he'll be like, man, I don't even know. How do you make money? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, I'm like, Dad, guys, I mean, they pay at the gym. So, I mean, that's part of it, you know, because they'll see me, like, I'll send him, like, I'm doing a podcast or whatever. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, and he thinks, you know, to him, he thinks I'm famous in jiu-jitsu enough. And I was like, it's a small niche thing. But some people do know who I am in that niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not outside of it.
So did you go through all the belts or just?
No, I went through all of them. Like he eventually gave me.
Like some of them had to be quick though, right?
Yeah, I think like a year or two later, I got my purple belt when I went to he was doing they finally let him back in Canada, so I went up to visit him up there, and I think he gave me my purple belt in Canada. I got my brown belt at our gym one time, like when I was moving gyms and we were like building up those time, and then when we went out to, I already had Grace as a student and everything, so she was killing it, and then I went out to, then when I got my black belt, we were out there, and my one guy, John Blank, Thor, he's a killer, and he got ADCC and all that stuff, and he had won combat jiu-jitsu that weekend. Oh, wow. And Eddie was like, all right, force my hand, here's your black belt. And he's like, he goes, because he'll give guys black belts for like them doing good, and like I was already a little bit older when I got into like trying to do professional jiu-jitsu, and I had a lot of big matches, still won some stuff, but mostly I was already, even while competing, I was like already kind of turning into like, okay, well, I own the gym, so I have to coach these guys. And, John and Grace are just two like unbelievable students to walk into the door and just hone them and, kind of like guide their, upcome. And Thor got into, they didn't have him in. He got in late to that EBI, and then he smoked everybody, subbed everybody, all four guys, and won $20K. And that's how we started 10 Planet in Allentown. And then Eddie was like, all right, here's your black belt. And then what's crazy is John Jock Machado is Eddie's coach, So, and I always, once I met him, I was like, this guy's like jiu-jitsu Yoda. Like he's like not a lot of people know that much about him. And everything he says is like, like knowledge. You know what I mean? You're like, this guy, if you could just hang around with him and he's so positive. Everything is like, my guy, you're the champion. You're my friend. You know, he's hyping you up. And, you know, no matter you lose, no, everything is like, he's got a saying for it. He's got so many sick ones. So Eddie got his black belt from John Jock. John Jock is actually the first guy to bring Chuck Norris. So he found out about Chuck Norris, right? And, actually, Chuck Norris found out about him. He was in Brazil doing stuff, and they had the older Machado brothers, and they explained to Chuck Norris, they're like, look, this is a group of brothers like the Gracies, but it's their cousins, and they're all beasts, you know, John Jock, Keegan, all the Machados. And he was like, all right, so, and the Machados, like John Jock, you know, is missing fingers on his hand. He only has like one hand. So like, even though it's gi, you could see where Eddie got a lot of techniques from, because just like me and a lot of the rubber guard guys, your left arm overhook, because everyone passes with the right arm underhook, that overhook is because John Jock doesn't have fingers, he can't grab the gi, so he's overhook, underhook, everything. So you see when Eddie overhooks and he does shit that John Jock doesn't do. John Jock's always like, oh, Eddie, he's doing like a flying coyote guard, I don't know, you know, it's all crazy stuff. But he, even rolling with him though, I tried to like do work on him. It's like rolling with a ghost. He has that like jiu-jitsu, like what Hickson would say, the jiu-jitsu you can't see, the invisible jiu-jitsu, where you like try to put pressure on him, he's just not there. And he's like an older guy too. Like he's in his 50s. And he, you know, Chuck Norris rolled with him, got rolled up and was like, okay, if you get a black belt in Chuck Norris karate back in the day, USA karate, you also had to get a blue belt under the Machados. And then he moved the Machados over to America, and he paid for John Jock's first school.
Oh, that's wild.
And there's a whole thing with like, they were going to call it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu because that's what they grew up on, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I don't want to totally tell the story because I don't know what all the details are.
Yeah.
But there was like, you know, they were going to sue, and like it could have been a whole thing because like the Gracies were like, no, this is our thing. We're making money off this.
Yeah.
So they just called it, you know, Machado Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then that's how, to me, it's like, I can't even believe that story because my dad literally has no idea who any of these people are, knows nothing about jiu-jitsu. He goes, man, Walker, Texas Rangers, the man. You guys need to learn how to fight.
I know.
Next, you know, I'm in Chuck Norris, a black belt under John Jock. So I'm in that lineage now. And my dad, he doesn't, to him, it's mind boggling. I'm like, Chuck Norris brought this guy over to teach jiu-jitsu. And he's like, what?
I think your dad had like something to do with all that chain of events.
Some wild.
I just think he knew. He was like, you know what? I got these two boys. I got to put them in something to make them like stronger and tougher and learn how to fight. You know?
Yeah.
And I think he never had that chance when he was a kid. So when he saw that opportunity, he was like,
he took it.
I don't care how much it costs.
You just took us through that story, but it's what, again, to emphasize the power of the universe in your story is fucking wild.
Yeah.
And
very
how
much,
it started and not ended, but
it's full circle.
It came full circle with Chuck Norris. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I can't even believe that happened. I mean, I owe it all to Chuck. I got to get I'm mad about this, but I used to have I sent away one time, I wrote him a letter or something like that when I was a kid, and he sent a thing back and it said, best wishes, keep kicking, love Chuck. And it was like a picture of him like with a cowboy hat, like in a stance. I can't find it. I'm so mad. It's around. One day I'm going to uncover it. Yeah.
You'll find it when the time's right.
None of your belt promotions were like ceremonious. They were all just like,
it was all kind of like, dude, like I got to give this guy his black belt, like, you know, and it did. I mean, because to me, I just always feel like it means something to you personally. You know what I mean? So when I got that was cool. But, you know, I just, you know, it's
nice.
why I don't rank the kids. And people give me shit about this sometimes, but if the kids start,
you don't rank the kids at all?
No, I don't rank any of our kids. When they get to 14, usually, if they've been training with me since they're 8, 14, 15, so I used to make them wait till they were 16. And I made Big Chris. I've always had these teenage like prodigy type kids, and they come through the gym and I make them wait. Like now Sid, he moved down to Maryland, Sid Tavallaro. He's sick, you know, I gave him his a blue belt when he turned 15 because he's subbing adults. You know, he's a 15-year-old just slicing these adults. Same thing we got Maya Lang and Grace when she was a kid. So, you know, 14, 15 years old, if you're tapping adult blue and purple belts, I might have to give you a blue belt. But since they never got belts when they were kids, they could care less. They get their blue belt, they're happy, but it's not like, you know, where some people go nuts on it. They don't really care.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I mean, some of these kids, like there's kids at Movement that would easily kick my ass if I
Oh,
roll
yeah.
them. Like they deserve. Like the one kid Seth, he could be purple belt easily. And it's just their level of like understanding of jiu-jitsu and the art and the game is just on a different level. But it's interesting you bring that up because that's what really one of the parts that drove me away from my old school. That shall not be named. It's all around the belts for the kids. We'd be driving to class and Parker would be like, oh, I'm getting promoted today. And I'm like,
What?
what? Like, how do you know that? Like, you didn't work hard enough. Like, you didn't study or like put in the work on the mats. Like, you got tapped last week. Like, not that that means anything, but and he's like, oh, well, it's my first class of the month. Like, it's time for promotion. I'm like, what am I teach? I don't teach. Literally, I teach the world, hundreds of thousands of people that you need to work hard and show up every day and put in the extra reps to earn something. And here I am taking my son to a place where they're just giving it to him for showing up. Like, in what world do you get something for showing up? Nowhere.
I think that's the old school, just format that they had for karate too, and it was a way to keep people there.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that's that company.
Engaged, yeah.
They created a business, and this is something I always talk to like Danny and Nick about. It's like there's a fine line, in my opinion, like just being a business person of like in jiu-jitsu, like the stuff I do at the gym with my wife, or the gym we own, we wouldn't do if we owned a jiu-jitsu school. Like,
Right.
So the martial art has to stay the martial art in some capacity, and they kind of commercialized it too
Yeah,
much.
that makes total sense, and that really resonates because what I tell the kids and what I tell the parents when they ask, they're like, how come he doesn't get? Do they get belts or like how does that work? And I'm like, I never did it just because I never even thought about it when I started up the kids class. But now that it's been going, I'm never going to give it to them because here it matters what you are. Anytime someone asks me about it, is my cue to give this exact speech that I always give. And I tell them, here it doesn't matter what belt you are. Nobody cares. Nobody cares here whether you win or lose. All they care about is how you act as a person on the mat. That's what matters. We all know who the best kid is here. We all know who the best at arm bars is. We all know there's only one way to change that is to be the best at it. It has nothing to do with those belts, and I'm not going to start giving it to you guys so that way it becomes a thing. Well, how come this guy got his belt and I didn't get mine? Yeah. And then the parents have a thing. It's like, dude, they don't even care. And one of the kids used to, he's older now, and I think he went to college, but I used to tell him, all right, anytime a kid would ask, like, when do we play dodgeball or when do we get belts? I'd be like, Robert, hit him with it. And he'd be like, we don't play ball, we roll, bro. And he would say that to him. And they're like, oh, man. And then we used to scare the new guys. I'd have the kids tell him, it's like, oh, is it today? Like, he was like 12, and he would walk up to an adult on their first night. He'd be like, hey, is today your first night? And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, oh, on your first night, you have to fight. Like, it was Fight Club. And he's like, well, I'm just here for it's like a 12-year-old kid telling me, I'm just doing a trial class. He's like, nah. I'm like, dude, don't mind him. You know what I mean?
That's the thing too. Like, we would get there and we'd spend my son would spend 15 minutes warming up, some basic technique, super basic, like the basic, and then dodgeball would be 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
parents get mad at that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not paying.
Yeah.
For my son to come here, but I would dodgeball at home, dude. He's like, you can do that at school.
None of that goes on in Martini. I don't even know what it is.
Well, at movement, they'll play a game here and there, and it's like at movement. It's Nick has them do like a game is like burpees and running.
Yeah, that's a game.
Like that's the game. Like,
I tell them this too, like, because they're like, oh, why can't we? Every now and then, someone would be like, why can't we play soccer like we played when we had the Christmas party? I go, guys. You guys, I'm only here with you for an hour twice a week. If I spend 15 minutes a day playing a game, that's a half hour a week that I've wasted now. And I only have you for 2 hours. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, your parents will be pissed at me if they come in here and they see us playing games. They want to see you sweating and working.
Learning how to defend yourself in the street or like do jiu-jitsu. Like, they don't want, I'm not going to pay for you to, it's not an after school program. If I want, I'll take you to the YMCA.
Take you to the park, dude.
Yeah, I'll
take you to the park, kick the ball around.
I got the YMCA down the street. That's half the price.
Yeah. I tell the guys too, same thing. I'm like, like when the little kids class ends, I'm just getting there and I'm getting changed and I'm about to walk out and I try to start class as close to on time as I can. Some of the kids are still coming off the bus and everything. Yeah. And as I'm getting in there,
it is a tight window, dude.
Yeah, they pick up the ball for like a second. One kid throws it. I'm like, all right, guys, up against the wall. And they're like, damn. You know what I mean? They're like, he's not letting us live. I'm like, dude, this is... You know what I mean?
Work.
Yeah, this is work time, bro. Between the 12 And when it hits again, we got to work, bro. Your parents come in here and see you not working. They're not going to yell at you. They're going to yell at me.
Exactly.
And I ain't getting yelled at. So get your ass up and start going.
Exactly.
You know, I'm always busting our chops. But our kids class now, because I think we run it like that, it's never going to have like Dante Rivera tell me, he's like, I got 1 million kids, you know, and they probably do. And I'm sure he's balling out, but I'll just never. And honestly, if I don't even think physically my body will let me do it. Not that, believe me, Dante's a man, but like I could never have. And they do gi, so it's a bit different because they have the belts and everything, and we don't. So like we're never gonna have like that many kids because it's just tougher. You got to be kind of like, you know, a hard-nosed kid to be in there like every day with like just a t-shirt and shorts wrestling.
Delayed gratification.
That's, again, not to bring up my son too much, but we switched gyms. He was on the last stripe to getting his next belt, his gray belt. And I like literally he's just learning the move. Like they're not going to promote him anytime soon because he has to earn it. And he's learning. I always used to make him, like I would get him cake pops. I don't anymore at Starbucks when he was like one.
Yeah, kid.
And I give it to the bag to him in the back. And I would say, okay, you can't eat this till we get home. And you have to sit there with the bag with his fucking cake pop in it. And people would think I was fucking crazy because I wanted to like delay gratification like that. I'm like, but he's better for it. Like now he's going to jiu-jitsu. He loves going to jiu-jitsu. He's just doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Not worried about his stripe. Like literally, that's all the kids cared about at that place.
Yeah, I'm going the opposite route. As opposed to trying to keep them with the belts and the constantly holding the carrot in front, so that way you have to keep running to get that belt, your next promotion. I try to get them with, and this is like what I've been really trying to get into lately is, and I've already been into it, but I'm just being more vocal about it. But I'm really trying to get them to understand, it's like, this isn't just like a sport. Like I just play softball and then it's over. This is a thing that you do all the time. Your parents put you into this as a lifestyle to keep you healthy. So that way you're not just coming home from school and playing video games, eating Cheetos. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be here 3 times a week. It has nothing to do with tournaments and belts, and that's all extra. We do that because we're kind of crazy and we want to get into that shit, you know? But for the most part, this is just the life that you live. You come here and you do this, and that's it. You just, there's no like end goal. There's no end to it. You're just doing it.
What ages are those kids that you're speaking to?
Usually they're over like 8 or 9. You know what I mean? And they're getting a little bit older, so they understand
That's where
what's
your
going
kids
on.
program starts, 8?
No, we have a littler kids, but we just play game. I mean, not
just
ball, but like he's playing like, you know, they got to hang on his back and they roll around him and stuff. And the only reason we have this class is because, or that class, and now there's more kids in it, which is crazy, but is because the other parents that train there have kids that young. So they're like, yo, come on.
And they want to get them started in jiu-jitsu as early as possible.
Yeah, they just want, they don't even care that they're doing anything, just want them rolling around on a mat. But then I give the same speech to the fundamental, the advanced guys get a completely different speech. That's me usually bitching at them and telling them like, get their shit together. But the beginner guys, I'm trying to tell them, it's like, it's not like, hey, I'm going to do this for the summer and then I'm going to quit. Like, there's no end goal. Like, forget black belt. Do you guys think I'm a black belt? And guys like, yeah, probably. I'm like, you don't even know. Who cares? The only reason you think that is because they put a picture of me up on a wall. Other than that, you just think that I'm one of the dudes rolling around here. Nobody cares.
Realistically, the belts are just only cool for you.
We're just training to train because it's a lifestyle we do. It never ends, and it makes me a better person, and it makes me healthier. And I have a community of people that I can trust. Most of the people there are good. You're meeting people of all different shapes and sizes, every different type of race. You got women. And then I love bringing my son, not just for the grappling part and that he loves wrestling, but that he sees people that are in shape. He sees, you know, a guy that's a doctor, a dude that, you know, is like a cop. He might meet a teenage kid that sells weed or something like that. That I'm like, this guy's got it, you know what I mean? But people are there at least trying to better themselves. And even if they're not in shape, because not like you have to be in shape to be at the gym, they're working to get in shape. He sees people working hard. So now, even though he's only 3, when he sees the kids wrestling, he doesn't know. It looks like to him, they're just wrestling. They're playing a game. Let's wrestle, Daddy. Now we wrestle, but little does he know, like it's a hard ass thing. They're working each other. You know what I mean?
It really, it takes a different kind of individual to like spend your free time going to a gym and getting your head bounced off a mat and getting the shit choked out of you. Like the fact
half
that
the
my
people
son
can't even get off the couch.
The fact that my son's already done a few competitions at 8 is like
huge.
Huge. And you're really like, when you're, kudos to anyone that competes, but when you're out there, it's just you and one other person, and you're trying to kill each other. Like no matter if it's a Naga or Jiu-Jitsu World League, like they want to win, dude. Like you're getting the best, you're getting everything they got. and to be willing at even when you're fighting and competing, like to go out there and do that, it just takes a different caliber of individual, even from those people that do jiu-jitsu in the gym. Like,
Yeah.
you're a step over that.
Yeah, and that's like, and even it's like a half of 1% of people who actually go compete, which is insane. And I got a bunch of dads that make their sons compete. They don't even care if they win. Kid will be crying the whole match, throw another kid in a triangle. They're just like, look, that's the closest thing they can have to be in a fight.
Yeah.
And look, public school is kind of crazy. You got all these kids in there. You don't know what's going to happen. You want them to be able to be like, hey, if someone touches him, he's not going to think twice. He's just going to let it ride. And I always tell them, like, you're going to turn around and you're going to look at your dad. When you turn 18, like, he's going to make you do this till you're 16, 18 years old. And you're going to like it once you become a teenager and you've been trained as a kid, you're going to start liking it. But you're going to turn around and be like, you know what, Dad? I know I complained a lot about coming here, but thanks for turning me into a freaking animal. You know what I mean? Because now, I mean, just speaking, because I have a son, like, not that I don't have a daughter, but it will be the same thing. I'd have my daughter is confident. She can talk to people. She's not afraid to be around guys. She knows how to handle herself. Same thing with my son. He knows how to be around people that are in shape and good looking. He knows how to talk to adults. He's around adults all the time. He knows how to, handle himself in a wrestling thing. He talks in front of a class. Like, those are the type of things like you don't realize martial arts is teaching you. And it's not like I said, it's not a season that just ends. It's just a lifestyle. It's like we just do it.
That's what got for me to get my son into it. I was seeing videos on Twitter of like kids getting beat up in the school bathroom and shit, and I'm like, I'm never letting Parker do that. And I got bullied.
Yeah,
and I didn't do
me
anything
too.
about it because I was a pussy. You know what I mean? I didn't have anything. What am I gonna do? Yell at him? Like, I'm not gonna fight this guy. He'll kick my fucking ass.
I remember the first time like I got hands put on me too.
Yeah.
And like
I
was
remember
completely
mine too,
unprepared.
Yeah, I had no idea. Kid just socked me right in the stomach in front of the soda machine. He was like, give me a quarter. It was like, I think sodas were like 35 cents at the time. He's like, he had a dime. He's like, give me a quarter. I'm like, I don't have one. And he just grabbed me and then drilled me right in the stomach. And it was like the first time I ever really like got the wind knocked out of me as opposed to like falling down on the ground. I was like, whoa, I never want that feeling again. You know?
Yep.
Like Parker fucks someone up that does that to him.
Yeah.
I do have the lightning round question.
Okay, let's do lightning
Nice.
round. Let's do lightning round.
Just 3 questions, just off the cuff. First one, what was harder, getting your black belt under Eddie Bravo or building a business?
I think building a business, honestly, because like the jiu-jitsu part, like if you love that, like something like that, that's easy. You know what I mean? I could just show up, and that's what it really was for me, just showing up and continually grind at it. And already doing martial arts, I felt like I had the, recipe for getting good. Just keep coming in and trying your hardest, eating healthy, all that kind of stuff too. And but building a business, I had no idea how to do that. I think I've always been like entrepreneurial minded in the sense that I can come up with ideas, but then like somehow, then I had to really, hone in on, I gotta, figure out how to charge people for money, like, and do all those kind of things.
Execute.
So big learning experience there, you know.
Yeah. That's the hard part about starting businesses is, in my opinion, like being comfortable asking for money. Okay, like I'm providing you a service and a value. Can you pay me now? Like,
just and all the inner workings of like taxes and paying rent, and then like I used to do dumb stuff like, I forgot to pay the electric bill for 4 months and now I owe them like $800. I'm like, what the heck? Like, how did I not know how to do that? So like trying to get on like a task, like I always tell people, like any advice, if they ask me for advice in business, I write everything down. Like I will put stuff down in my phone, but a lot of times I'll forget to look at my phone.
Okay.
So at my house, like my wife will get mad because I just got Post-its and like papers and like drawings all over the place.
Writing's a more cognitive process. It actually helps it, stick in your brain better.
100%. And if I got to rewrite it, like if I got to take it from a note to another note, it pisses me off. I'm like, damn, I still didn't do that.
Yes,
I agree.
Like, do that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, next question. Pull guard or wrestle from the feet?
If it was just me, myself, I'll pull guard. You know what I mean? Okay. But if I was like me 20 years ago, I'd probably judo somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. Judo toss. Right now, though, I'm pulling guard. I'm pulling guard. Yeah, I'll play with that. I'll handle that. Other than that, though, probably pulling guard. Yeah. I might come out with a wrestling singlet and the ear guards and like slap around and like do a bunch of like penetration steps, but then probably 2-on-1 pull guard.
And the last question. Nicky Rod or Gordon Ryan?
Nicky Rod all day, dude.
Yeah. We agree.
I will say, like, I know Gordon personally too, but when someone's given the keys to the whole entire game, like, I would do it differently. I know he would say, you're a bum and you can't do it differently because you're not me and you haven't done this shit, blah, blah, blah. And Gordon Ryan did win the finishers one. So I do have, obviously I have respect for him. The guy's a beast. But, you know, and I do probably align with him on some things, you know, but, you know, Nicky Rod, I like him better. I don't know.
I agree. I agree.
Great.
That's all I got.
That's all you got for lightning round?
It's always 3 questions.
That's pretty good.
That's
pretty good.
consistent.
The community knows most of them, but let the community know where they can find you, finishers, like all that good stuff.
Yep. Thank you. I just want to say real quick before I forget, thank you guys so much for having me. I've been meaning to get down here forever, but, you know, just getting a babysitter and getting everything set up and getting everybody to fill in all my roles is tough sometimes. But you could just follow me on Instagram, Big Uncle Zach Maslaney. Anything. If you just search finishers, you'll find it somewhere, the sub only, finisher sub only, all that stuff. And really what I'm getting into now that I'm getting older, and I feel like I talk a lot of crap online too, so I need to put my money where my mouth is, and I really want to start helping people get more healthy. Like, I know it's like, oh, it's just a thing, you know, and this should be bipartisan, but some of the stuff that RFK is saying right now, I mean, whether you like him or not and think he has a brain worm or whatever they say, you got to look at the shit that he's saying and say, damn, like 1 in 5 kids is obese. Yep. You know, the stuff that they're putting in, the food is terrible. Like, my parents didn't even know that Kraft mac and cheese is different in the UK. Yep. They didn't know that. You know, so I want to start getting into that kind of stuff. And if I have to run for like a local board or something like that, I'm going to do it. So I'm announcing right now I'm running for something. I don't know what it is. But locally, though, locally, though, all you administrators there, get your shit together because I'm coming for you. Everybody who's taking money from like, you know, soda companies and candy companies. And I hear that kids can go to school and go to a vending machine because I could do when I was a kid, 7:30 a.m., rip a Mountain Dew Code Red and a bag of M&Ms and Doritos, and you're like, I don't know why he won't sit still. That's what they used to say about me. You know why? Because I was drinking soda at 7:30 a.m. and now learn algebra. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? That shit needs to go.
Yeah, there were days I started with a Mountain Dew and a Big Texas.
Yeah.
That was my
a Big
Texas of champions.
Yeah, in high school, you're supposed to be feeding people. They have enough money where every morning they could have fruit bowls and yogurts and shit like that where people could come in. I mean, literally, it's just like what you get at the hotel. If they just had when you have a hotel breakfast for kids, have hash browns, eggs, because look, a lot of kids can't afford it. My wife is a teacher. She shows up to school, and a kid comes to school. He's 9 years old. He's got a bag of Doritos for breakfast.
Not to mention the lunches they serve at the school, my kid's school. It's fucking disgusting. I wouldn't let them touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, it's gross. So I could talk about this for hours. I know I don't want to go on forever, but
that's part 2. We're gonna bring you back for part 2.
Yeah, well, your campaigns episode.
Yeah, exactly.
We fully endorse your campaign.
Nice. Thank you guys. I'm endorsed by Fuel Hunt. That's all I need.
Back by Fuel Hunt.
Yeah. Dude, we could do it, bro. I'm saying, you know, and just serious note,
maybe
it does
you can put
need
me
to
in
change.
the cabinet. Maybe
Yeah,
you can put
exactly.
me in the cabinet, bro.
Yeah, I'm appointing you guys.
Listen, any seat, as long as I can work hard, put me in any seat.
Exactly. When the like minds, you know, work together, dude, there's nothing we can't accomplish, really, I feel.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. But thank you guys again, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. This was great. All right, leave the few with a reminder. Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. Remember, no one owns you. No one owes you. You're one of the few. But let's hunt.
Science.